All right, everybody, this will be a warning to all politicians. I'm running for president 2024, part 7. So going over some of the things from my own experiences in life, things that we need to do to make things simpler for people in this nation, no matter what color, race, religion they are, uh, and make it more attractive for people to live good lives instead of seeking criminal lives and stuff. So I started talking about, went into about like wages and stuff and like how we're paid out here. But I think I went off on another tangent. I was trying to get at, the 40-hour work week thing that's kind of antiquated. One thing about California when I worked out there in the 80s, I don't know if it's still the same. I'm assuming it is. If you worked more than 8 hours in a day, you got paid over.
ELD data diagnostic event occurred.
You got paid overtime. And so that way they couldn't work you like a dog at the beginning of the week and then cheat you at the end of the week and send you home early and stuff like that. So I think that's good. That ought to be nationwide. But I also think, like out here, we put in 70 hours a week. For a long time, we put in more than that, but being we were mileage paid or rate paid and stuff, you were making more money. You're not making no overtime, but you were still making more money, even though you're putting those hours in. But there ought to be more options. Like, I know there's salary people, and you work out you go to work for somebody, and we're going to pay you salary for 50 or 60 hours a week or whatever and stuff like that. But somebody who's not a salary employee, suppose you don't mind working 6 days and 48 hours a week. Maybe employers ought to have more options where they can offer people, look, we're not going to pay overtime on in some ways, but we'll make available other options, or even you want to work a 50-hour week in 5 days hourly, but what it'll be is minimum wage will be a different scale for things like that. So even though there's no overtime, you understand they're gonna have to pay more. So like if you work a 40-hour a week, minimum wage for that, whatever they got it now to, let's say that's the $15 an hour. All right, but you'd like to make more money, but the place doesn't want to pay people overtime, this and that. How about a 50-hour week at $16 an hour? See what I'm saying? Like I'm saying, I'm just throwing numbers out there. Things would have to be looked at and worked out. You could work it out federally, or maybe states could work out their own systems. I'm saying, instead of having to go out and find 2 jobs because the one place doesn't want to pay overtime, what if you were able to work more hours at that place, make more money, but it's not on an overtime thing and it's not salary? See what I'm saying? There should be more options. This 40-hour, 5-day thing doesn't fit for everybody. And so we should look into things like that. I talked a lot about child support and stuff and everything. I also think, and taxes, part of your child support you pay, you should be able to write that off on your taxes. And like I said, everything's going to be done electronically, so it's not even going to be like writing it off. It's just going to be done automatically. A certain percentage will sit down, crunch those numbers too. Because I think if you're taking care of your kid and you're not one of these deadbeats out there, and you're not one of these players out there hitting it, quitting it, and making all these babies and taking off, and you're not taking care of any of them, leaving society to foot the bill. I think if you're taking care of your kids, you shouldn't be penalized. if you're making the effort, you're paying your child support. Part of that, I know there's tax credits, and I know that it's supposed to go back and forth between each parent and this and that, but it don't always work that way. It didn't work that way in my situation. She took the credit for my son every single year, and like people at the IRS, well, you just file and you take it. And I said no, because then you know what happens. Then you're going to get on her. She's going to have to refile all this and everything. I'm never going to hear the end of it. She might even, use it to keep me from seeing my kid or something, or try to. And then if she's in any kind of financial trouble or anything, I end up paying anyway, because I'm not going to let my kid get thrown out into the street. So it comes back on me either way. So just let her take the credit every year. I don't care. But if it's an automatic thing, where my child support or your child support was, part of it was tax deductible, I think it ought to be. You're taking care of your kid. They're taking the tax credit every year or whatever. Part of your support should just be tax deductible. And like I say, taxes and all that, it'll be automatic. There's not going to be no filing. The system's going to file everything. It's going to keep track of your income, and we're going to set a percentage, when that comes in, whether it's from a company paying you hourly or you're a contractor and they pay you to your small business, a percentage of that automatically set aside, goes off to the government automatically, and their rates are going to be way lower, because we're also going to up the personal exemption. I don't know what it's at now, but we're going to look at it, and whatever you figure the cost of living of a single human being is, if it's, $20,000 a year, whatever, it goes up to, that's what the exemption goes up to. You should not have to pay taxes on your cost of living. Now, that doesn't say you can go out and have a super huge cost of living and be able to write all that off. We're just going to figure out what the basic cost of living is, and taxes will not start until after that level's reached. And like I said about the age thing also, we're going to do that. Your charitable deduction, charitable contributions and stuff, automatically the system's going to recognize it as a charitable contribution to a registered charity, and that's automatically going to be figured in and everything. So the only thing you're not going to have to pay at the end of the year when the system files everything, you might get a automatic deposit to your account in a refund form. That's it. You'll only get money back from the tax system. You'll never have to owe and then be at risk being behind and having to pay penalties and interest and all that kind of stuff. Sound good? I think so. So we'll look at the labor laws and stuff, and see if there can be more options put out there that are fair, like like I said, just different minimum wages. You're willing to work, you want to better yourself, you're willing to work 50 or 60 hours a week for $1 or $2 an hour more instead of the time and a half. That should be available to you. Also, I agree, a lot of people, it was in the news not too long ago, about this, stuff. You go home and then the boss calls you and stuff, and you're doing all this extra work at home and stuff. No more. You get paid for it. You get paid for it. It used to drive me nuts when I was married. My ex would come home, or it'd be her day off or whatever. We're sitting down to dinner and phone rings. It's people at a job. People, even sometimes who were in a higher position than her, made more money than her, calling, and she'd spend 15, 20, 30 minutes on the phone walking them through a procedure they should already know and everything like that. And I'd be like, this is horseshit. We're sitting down at dinner. Hang up on them. Tell them to call the next guy up the line who's making more money than you. No, I got to do it, blah, 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 blah. Whatever. You should get paid for it. Stuff like that happens, you should get paid for it. So also, I don't know what the setup is now for like pregnant women, how much time you get off and this and that and stuff, but we'll look into that. We'll make sure all that's fair. We will look into this. We give all these corporations, which I agree with, less taxes are better for everybody. We give them these tax breaks. Well, do they use any of that money to increase their wages or benefits or anything like that for people? Or do they just, let their profit margins go sky high? Because all you people say, oh, we ought to tax them all to death. It's just going to get passed on to you. Whether it's a corporation or whether it's LeBron James. If you tell LeBron James, what's he getting, $100 million a year now, whatever, 200, whatever it is. Hey, we're going to tax you 90%. What? He can't maintain his lifestyle on 10 million. His market value is worth more than 10 million. If he's getting 100 million, you're going to tax him 90 million. What's he going to do? What's his next contract going to be? Hey, I gotta have 300, 400 million, whatever it is, a year. You think it's expensive to go to a game now? You start taxing these ball players 90% of their income. Start taxing them 90% of their income. See how much it costs you to go to a game then. See how much it costs to watch that special pay-per-view championship game or whatever. You got to think. Like I said, it's a circulatory system. And whether you want to think of like the human body and blood going through it or an electrical circuit, whatever, it's got to flow. If any of those 4 valves in the heart, if business is sucking up too much profit, if the government is sucking up too much taxes, if social programs are sucking up too much money, and you can attribute that to taxes too. Anything that gets out of line and throws everything out of balance, it screws us all. You raise the taxes outrageously on corporations and stuff, and they got to pay, and then you tell them you got to pay all these higher wages. It's going to trickle down to you. It's like reverse trickle down economics. Remember Reagan got all kind of crap for that? Well, socialism and this leftist stuff and tax the hell out of everybody is reverse trickle down. Trickle down more costs to you. Make it harder for you to find a job because people aren't going to invest in things where they're not going to get much of a return, and it's all going to be taken away in taxes. Businesses are not going to try to expand. All these types of things. So we'll look into all of that. We'll also, automatically, like I said, you're going to choose your bank. You're going to choose the companies you want accounts with. It'll all be done electronically. Don't let anybody tell me we can't do this. We don't have technology. Also, it can be done. So instead of this, like Obamacare thing, your premiums, unless you got one of these, unless you're rich, super rich, and you got one of these big Cadillac health insurance plans, insurance premiums for the average person will be automatically written off your taxes. Like I said, if it's cost of living, then the basic cost of living stuff you should not be having to pay taxes on. Just like when you go to the grocery store, food items you don't pay taxes on. Well, insurance and stuff like that ought to be looked at the same way. Should not be taxed on that. And I don't just mean like the sales tax. I mean that's you spending your money to benefit society. You're pulling your weight. You should not be taxed. You should be able to, I'm sorry, I'm saying it wrong. You should be able to write that off, or at least part of it. Unless you're super rich. Maybe we'll just set in a certain amount. Per bracket. A certain amount per tax bracket, per your income, you can write off your medical insurance, not just your out-of-pocket stuff, but your premiums up to a certain point, and what else was there? There was something else I was thinking, that should come out, that you don't have to be considered as taxable income if you're paying for it. There was something else. I'll think of it again. But so we got that. Oh, I know what else I want to say. With cashless society too, and also illegals. I know you don't want to use it. Well, foreign nationals here illegally, they'll be able to get a driver's license. They'll be able to get one of these bank accounts. You know why? Because what do we hear? They come into the country, we can't find them again. They overstay and all this and everything. Well, and they're not paying taxes and everything. Well, here you go. They're going to come in the country. They're going to have one of these accounts. It means you're going to be able to find them. They don't show up to their, everyone's going to balk at this. They don't show up to their thing. You can find them. Also, this will get rid of all them check cashing places that people are actually paying like 200% interest on and stuff. It'll get rid of all that. Because a lot of the foreign nationals that come in this country, they get on the social programs, they get on the welfare and stuff. You go to any food city in Arizona on the first of the month, go in there and see if I'm lying. You'll see a woman, 3 or 4 kids, a shopping cart or 2 full of groceries. She goes and pays for that, and right behind her is her old man, and he's got a shopping cart full of beer, but he's got a pocket full of cash also to pay for that, because he's working under the table. He's either getting paid cash or he's getting paid personal check or something. He goes to they got the check cashing place right there in the grocery store. You pay your bills, all that stuff anonymously, whatever, get your check cashed. So she goes to the welfare system and everything, says no, it's just her and the kids, lying out their asses, just her and the kids, gets all the welfare, the food stamps, all that stuff and everything. He's still living there. Nobody checks up on anything. He's working under the table somewhere, got a pocket full of money, shopping cart full of beer, got him a nice 4x4 out in the parking lot or something. It happens. It's season. Not for everybody. You don't have it that way, but there's a lot of them get away with it. They know how to play the system. And there you are, you're walking through. I'm working my ass off paying all these taxes and everything. I can't catch a break. And here's these people don't even want to be legal citizens, and they're milking the system. And you expect the average American not to be upset about that. I'm not a racist. I don't care where they come from or anything like that. But hey, that's not fair. It's not fair to us. Work our ass off. Oh, you don't care about other people. Yeah, I do. That doesn't mean I want to get robbed. Doesn't mean I want to be bent over the barrel. The average American, doesn't care about, where they're coming from or what the color of their skin is. It's about, hey, man, we're being screwed. And they're not just taking menial jobs. They anymore. And when you people say that stuff, well, they're only going to be picking fruit and this and that. It's like, oh, you're just telling me, you're just all for a slave labor force. That's all you're telling me. It's like when you say, hey, we need to get on Mexico to do something about their wages and stuff. They don't have no minimum wage down there. We need to make it attractive for their people to stay in their own country. And that's not racist, me saying that. That's common sense. Most Mexicans who are here, if Mexico would fix what's wrong with it, would much rather stay. Wouldn't you rather stay where you're from? I know I do. I don't look, I want to go live over there. Most people prefer to stay in their culture, in their nation. Given the choice. So, it's not racist to say we need to fix Mexico so people can live there and everything, prosper there too. And we don't have this flood of people coming across. We need to fix the crime down there so we don't have this flood of people coming across. It's not about racism. It's about, the system and what the system can handle and what's right and fair for everybody. It's not fair to that average working person to pay so many taxes and fees and all these things and everything like that, and work their asses off and still be going paycheck to paycheck and a risk of being homeless themselves. They're at a risk of being homeless themselves because of all the stuff they got to pay and all this. If the economy dips and stuff, they can be in serious financial trouble. And here you are, you're giving all this aid to people and stuff and everything. They could care less about actually being a citizen. That's why they, don't go through the whole process. But so we do this cashless society. You get rid of all them check cashing places. You make it harder for people to be paid under the table and stuff. And there's a lot of people that'll balk at the cashless thing too, that are in the restaurant industry or hospitality, who get paid tips. And if you don't know anything about that, most places, most states and stuff, people who get tips, they're charged tips. Well, that's easy for them to figure what percent they need that they can be taxed, because there's a record of that. But a large amount of the tips people receive are cash, so there's no record of it. So a lot of places or states, and sometimes just businesses, have a different policy. Automatically, whatever your sales are for that shift, 8%, they say, well, we're going to guess and we're going to say you made 8% of sales in tips. And so then that's what you have to claim on your taxes. Sometimes you don't make that 8%. Sometimes there's people you're making 2-3 times that 8%. And it's not being reported and it's not being taxed. That's not fair to everybody else who don't make tips. That's not fair. So they're going to balk because they're not going to be able to hide what they're making in tips. A lot of states are doing away with that anyway and making them all pay hourly, but then there's still customers who want to tip anyway, even though these employees are not tipped employees anymore. So, they'll probably balk at it. But like I say, the rates are going to be lower and everything, so it's going to be beneficial to report that. And then, because we're going to have true accounting of income and expenditures and everything, our revenue stream from taxes and stuff for what we need for government is going to be more exact. It'll probably even go up. That's the thing too. You create more jobs, you put more people to work. Even though you lower the tax rate, you're going to bring more in revenue. And then you have that money to do the things you need for infrastructure and things like this, and that puts more people back to work. See what I'm saying? It's a system. It's all connected together. And if you manipulate it the right way, in a healthy way, it benefits everybody. But it's like some people don't understand, and we need to teach this in schools again. Civics and economics. Start in grade school. Remember, if you're my age, you remember you're a kid, you had all them things, the bill running around talking about how government functioned and stuff, and all those types of things. And we also had, back in the 80s and the 90s, there was a lot more of these programs, Rock Against Drugs, and these DARE programs and stuff. How many kids programs today say anything about don't do drugs on the cartoon when the cartoons are on? Plenty of stuff on there about them. They need the latest, greatest sugar cereal, the latest, greatest toy, the latest, greatest video game, whatever it is. How much is actually on there about saying, hey, stay away from these bad things and all this? How much is taught in our schools about how to succeed? You need to start earlier in grade school, because there's a lot of people think money just falls out of the sky, even at places they work. I used to work at places and stuff like maybe they gave you some places, they gave you your whole meal, whatever the chef made for lunch that day, the lunch special, whatever was left over the employees got for their lunch. Then there was other places I worked, you ordered whatever you wanted to off the menu. Maybe you paid half price, maybe they made you pay full price, whatever it was. But there's always people walking around eating for free and stuff. and always bitching about, why can't we get a raise and this and that and everything. And it's like, well, and there was people stealing too. The manager's always talking about the food cost, or the owner. Oh, the food cost is sky. What the hell's going on? And then we find out we catch people stealing. And they're the ones walking around bitching about why they can't get a raise. Times that by 1,000 employees who are not paying for their meals, or they're taking stuff and going out the door and stuff, and the company's supposed to be able to afford to give everybody a raise. You're stealing them blind, and they're supposed to be able to give you a raise? Are you kidding me? There are people who have no idea how business operates. They've never understood how money works or anything like that. And these politicians take advantage of them. We're just you should be able to have everything for free. There's nothing for free. Everything comes by somebody's blood, sweat, and tears, and hard work, and money. There's nothing for free. It's going to cost somebody somewhere. Well, those of you who have should have to pay for those who don't. I've got no problem contributing to social programs a fair amount that help people, but people who are willing to help themselves. You would just want to give a check to people to sit on their asses? A check to people who go out and have kids and then don't want to take care of them? For all these foreign nationals coming into the country who've never paid into the system, they get all these benefits, but then somebody who might need some help, who's living paycheck to paycheck, goes and they're told, well, you don't qualify, you make too much money. What? I've paid taxes into this system my whole life, and now I need, I'm just asking for a little food stamps or something like that, or whatever it is, whatever type of not Medicaid, but there's a lot of things. They give it away to people who've never paid into the system, and you go to try and collect that benefit. Well, you make too much money, and you're really not doing that well. You're busting your ass every single day, paycheck to paycheck. The economy starts to crash a little bit. Your hours get cut, whatever. You need a little help doing something, whatever. Well, you make too much money. Well, we're not gonna. Your medical insurance didn't cover everything. You're out of pocket stuff. Hey, can I? Is there a program where I can get that covered? Having a hard time, right? No, but you'll cover 100% of the medical cost of a foreign national that's here illegally. That's not fair to the American people. You can't call them racist for being upset about things like that. But anyway, I wanted to go over those things there, and wish you all the best out there. Be safe. God bless. We'll talk to you next time. And I'm going to go get this load off and see what fun I can have the rest of this beautiful rainy day. All right. We'll see you next time. Adios.